Welcome back, everyone. So I know I said I was going to have a script up before 1072 came out. That didn't really work out. I had it written out and I was recording it, and I just didn't like it. Something about transferring it to video wasn't clicking with me. So for the time being, I scrapped that. I might reintegrate it in a different way. It was a recap of Egghead so far, and I might um, do it now to where I recap everything going on aside from the Straw Hats. But apologies for not getting that video out. However, we have 1072 now, and 1072 means the end of the big break. No break next week, so it's going to be back to back at least. And I wanted to talk about this chapter because there were a lot of implications made here, of course. Um, and without further ado, let's get into it. I do, real quick, just want to give a little shout out, I guess, to new book I'm reading. This is something I eventually want to do a video about. This is called The Booms by JB. JB is a One Piece YouTuber, pretty prolific one. I'm sure if you guys are watching my videos, you probably have at least heard about Joyboy, if not are a fan of him yourself. I really like the guy. I really like The Booms so far. So check it out on Amazon. It might be offered at some of your local bookstores too. Definitely give that a look. But without further ado, I really want to get into 1072. Right off the bat, chapter 1072, The Weight of Memory. And we have another Germa double six, Cold-Blooded Voyage. That's the new name for it. It was the an emotionless excursion for a while. Now they're just kind of cutting that down. Mass-producing deadly weapons with Judge and Queen and Caesar. They're all kind of, developing their own nefarious weaponry or developments, what have you. Caesar with the fruit, Queen with the viruses, you can assume, and then Judge has his iconic spear that he'll use later, of course, in life. Scientists for peace. What can you say? They're just doing this for peace. Okay, I really am loving the cover story so far. Very curious what the culmination of Mads will be, whether that'll be shown in the cover pages or in the actual chapters by the end of everything. I've been keeping a close eye on the Punk Records number since my reread of Egghead Arc, and it's kind of stagnated at 100, I'm noticing. But that number did significantly climb. It was 0 and then 66 and then 72 and then 92 and then 99, and now it's at 100, and it's kind of stayed there for a little bit now. Vegapunk has a little journal excerpt about something. The girl is unmistakably human, he mentions. This was back when he's the chief of Mads. So if you've read the whole chapter, you can kind of guess who he's talking about. For now, for a second, I was curious. I knew it would relate to Stussy, but reading this, I was curious, is it going to relate to Bonney as well? Not necessarily, at least not yet. Bonney and Vegapunk are still going at it. Bonney showing off some more of her devil fruit capabilities, distorted future in particular. It's kind of this, we could see with Luffy being changed earlier that her devil fruit powers can kind of tap into these alternate dimensions, if you will, of, that was the Luffy that was drawn kind of if things don't go bad. Not the Luffy that Oda drew, if he finds the One Piece and achieves his dream. This is kind of Bonney in a future or a timeline, if you will, where she has buffed up, gotten really big and bulky. She's fighting Vegapunk, of course, still very upset about what he did with Kuma. He can't really explain it right now, and he's trying to get everything out, but obviously Bonnie's trying to kill him. More about her powers, though, right off the bat. Obviously, she transforms Vegapunk into a little kid, and he's actually pretty cute with that little apple thing coming out of his head. I did like Kid Vegapunk. What was more interesting was Bonney physically conjured up, Vegapunk calls them his golden years, and they pop out of his body as these like stars and like curves and squiggles. There's one that looks like a gobstopper. There's a diamond. I see there's a Christmas ornament, I'm pretty sure. All of these different physical shapes that represent Vegapunk's golden years. So while we still don't have Bonney's devil fruit hard hammered down, I think it's pretty safe to say it's the age fruit. Maybe the years fruit, you could say that, since it works on inanimate objects as well. You know, the years keep piling on. You can physically conjure up like a diamond of 50 years or so. I hope we get more into that. I'm curious if it is the awakened form of Toki's power. I just am, because the timeline sort of lines up. For Toki dying, fruit gets reintegrated. I don't know exactly how it would get off Wano. I assume it would regrow on Wano, but you know, I'm just a little curious. It could very well not be. It could be the years fruit, not the time fruit. You know, there's no time travel involved. But there sort of is a little bit of playing with that Oda is doing. There's a little bit of playing with, ooh, what dimension are we gonna pull your aging or de-aging from? Let's not get hung up there too long, though. We're still, you know, Bonney is unable to rectify what Vegapunk did to Kuma. She's justifying it as an outright killing. Why the hell did you kill my father? She says right up in little Vegapunk's face, and he's saying, well, he might say it here in a little bit, but he says this is child abuse, even though he's like 77 or however old he is. I forget right off the top of my head. I love that. That was so funny to me. He's a funny guy. I do have to give him that. I'm not sure how I feel about his moral compass yet. He could have a little bit of a evil turn, if you will. Maybe not evil, but questionable. Funny guy. We cut to Redport. Kuma is climbing the red wall, the red line, not red wall like the little talking mammals. So they should make more of those. They should do an HBO series about that. That was a great little series growing up. Redwall. Check it out. I bet that those books still hold up today. But Kuma climbing the red line, and Vegapunk is still talking to Bonney over these scenes. I promised Kuma that I would keep his secret from you no matter what. Well, that obviously doesn't sit right with Bonney. I mean, she is still upset. She's trying to get Vegapunk to come out with it. Vegapunk definitely seeming emotional over it. He wants to even forget that happened, that he had to do that to Kuma. I wish I could forget the whole ordeal. Kuma's an incredible man. I've always been proud to call him my close friend. Bonney, please understand, I can't say anything more on the matter. So more than the revolutionaries, it seems to me that Vegapunk and Kuma are kind of these homies. Maybe Kuma masterminded something, Dragon's the head, but maybe Kuma is the brains of the operation at the Revolutionary Army. I don't know. Either way, it seems like he had a probably a pretty damn good plan here, as tragic as it ends up being. Kuma gets shot down from the red line. Bonney is talking that this is where Vegapunk says that line. This is child abuse. And then something distracts Bonney. And Vegapunk kind of foolishly says that's got nothing to do with Kuma, even though it's got a big paw print on the door. It's locked with a mechanical lock that Bonney just kind of disintegrates. She uses her fruit and it disintegrates. And inside is a big paw, a big manifestation of something from Kuma. We're not quite sure, but through a little flashback, we see this is at least his memories. Now pairing that manifestation with what Vegapunk is talking about imagination and memories having mass, you know, we kind of assume this is Kuma's memories. That's what Bonney naturally assumes too in a second as she's about to touch it. We don't see anything about that. I'm curious if this is going to turn out to just be memories. We still don't know who that mystery ally is. We don't know if this manifestation is hooked up to any mainframe computers. I'm kind of spitballing here a little bit with Kuma, but they're just giving us such little to go off of from chapter to chapter with Kuma that I can taste it, but I want that full bite. I want to get the most out of it. Ultimately, we still don't. Vegapunk's begging Bonney not to touch it. She's in a trance as she walks up to it. She does eventually touch it at the same time that Kuma is blasted off of the red line by the Marines. It's got to be his memories of some sort. Vegapunk mentioned imagination. He mentioned the total wireless transmission of nerve signals as well, which would infer to me that it is more than just memories. It is Kuma in the present as well that is able to exist in this manifestation. Obviously, you know, we've got to figure that out ourselves coming up. Probably a pretty big Kuma Vegapunk flashback, Bonney as well coming up. Will Stussy be incorporated with that being the first successful clone? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. That's kind of where things end off for Bonney, Kuma, and Vegapunk. Definitely the main focus of the chapter. I really loved this section, even though we didn't get much of the Straw Hats this week. I did want more of Bonney. She kind of took the backseat since introducing that Kuma was her father. You know, she passed out for a while. So more on Bonney. I love it. We cut up to the Labostratum. They're watching the Sunny. The Sunny is getting lambasted on all fronts. The Seraphims have deferred back to CP0 with Sentomaru out of the picture. Obviously you have the 3 CP0. They're all converging on the lab, on the Sunny. Haku specifically, but CP0. The lab is decimated by the Seraphims. The 4 of them come up to it on CP0's orders, and they cut it up, they blast it apart. It's just wrecked. You see it kind of start to come down. The others are still inside, and we're not sure what's going to happen to them. We got Usopp and Nami screaming their heads off as the whole lab kind of goes wilter-tilter. But then the big twist happens, and Kaku is interrupted. He's obviously awakened as well. Don't want to just brush over that, but I am going to brush over that. He is awakened. Stussy, I don't know where she was hiding these wings, first of all. Stussy just comes up out of nowhere, bites him, and Kaku's out like a light. Lucci, for the first time, has the fear of God in his eyes. And he looks at her, and he just says, "What are you doing, Stussy?" He and Hattori are pretty stunned, obviously. Who, me? I'm just putting him to sleep. Would you please join him, Lucci? I think it's time for your catnap, too. Clone of Miss Buckingham Stussy of the Rocks Pirates, Mad's first successful clone, Unit 1, Stussy. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, a lot of questions off the bat. This is the main meat of this video besides just going over the chapter in general that I really wanted to get to, because Stussy obviously to me has been one of the most questionable parts of this arc of the post time skip in general. I've been so curious how she'll play in. I had no inkling, and this one is on me. I should have tied them together because it totally explains Weevil now, what Weevil is. Stussy is the little old lady Bakken, or you know, she's romanized as Buckin, which is even more of a parallel. Buckingham Palace, Buckin. She is that lady. This is a clone of her, more than likely. One, no, that was one. See, this is what I'm saying. There are a bit of contradictions here, and my mind goes wandering. So, we are to assume Stussy is the clone of the mother of Weevil, Bakken. That then makes me think Weevil is a clone too, an unsuccessful one, if you will. I think he is a clone of Whitebeard. I don't know how else to describe it unless it's an incomplete amount of DNA that they got from Whitebeard, so they had to inject some other, filler space. They gave him frog DNA to make up for what was missing or whatever. But let's move. So they're clones, great. Crazy that we're getting clones this late in the game. Then why has she never been mentioned as part of the Rocks Pirates? Was like I was always curious, how did the Rocks Pirates do all these crazy things with fewer members than the Straw Hats? That was always crazy, but that added to their sort of, if Gold Roger's is the god, the Rocks Pirates are the Titans, It added to that magnificence to them, their splendor. Yet seeing this, it is kind of a no-brainer. Like, yeah, there were more members than that. A part of my mind still, though, is like, was Buckingham Stussy Silver Axe? Is that going to be the twist there? Wang Ji, Wang Zhe, I know, I defer to the Tekking pronunciation sometimes. Is that Bakken? Is Bakken Wang Zhe? I don't know. It's filled my mind full of questions, On the one hand, it obviously shows that connection between Whitebeard and Bakken. There was a lot of conjecture about if she was telling the truth, if he really had anything to do with her. Likely still not to make Weevil, but enough to where that could pass. If they were on the Rocks Pirates together as youngsters, that makes a lot more sense. Now, one contradiction that I really am confused about, and I would have to scrub through all of Whole Cake, which would take a little bit. I didn't want to do that before this video. But why does Big Mom not recognize her then? It doesn't, maybe she does, and it's so off the cuff that the reader wouldn't generally notice. Like, they just know each other because Stussy is the queen of the underworld, the Pleasure District specifically, and that's, they have frequent dealings that way. Maybe it was framed like that. I will say, her and Dufeld, their talks in Whole Cake Island definitely are recontextualized a little bit. I think him bringing up her age, I think he's teasing her. I think he's very confused. He probably understands if Stussy is the first successful clone of Mads specifically. So, little curious how that is going to be justified. Big Mom's also kind of crazy. I guess I would accept that if that's all it is. She just, it's been so long since she knew Buckingham Stussy. She doesn't recognize. I don't know. I'm not crazy happy about that. It's another aspect of the story that urges Big Mom to return, I will say. And I don't think we needed it, but I think it is further evidence that Big Mom is not done here. There are a couple contradictions, a couple loose ends not tied up. I'm excited to see her back. I know a lot of people have issues with Big Mom, and I just hope that by the end of her story, those are justified a little bit more once we see the full arc of her character. More than Kaido, more than Shanks, more than Blackbeard even. She has been the Yonko focus of the post-time skip. Unfortunate that Zoro's fight had to be cut a little short. I am glad for the reasons that it did. I am glad there is no break next week. I want more of Stussy. I want more of Kuma and Bonney and Vegapunk. I want more of the Straw Hats too, but right now, guys, I think we've got some big lore stuff to tackle first. I hope we get another cover story next week. I hope we start into a flashback, personally. Maybe something that parallels the flashback in the cover story that's going on as well. Curious about what Luffy was up to this chapter, because I thought he reunited with the people in the lab. Very curious what Kuma is going to do up in Mary Joie, if he's going to kind of finish what the Iron Giant started and actually wreak some havoc if he gets up there. Could he be fighting his way to Vivi? Is Vivi held captive in Mary Joie and he is racing to her to blast her away to Elbaf, reconnect with the Straw Hats? Because I do think she has to by the end of the series. I think it's inevitable that she needs to reunite with the Straw Hats. More questions than there are answers. For a little bit there, we were getting the answers. We had answers to the Devil Fruits, to who Vegapunk was, to some Kuma stuff as well, more so for the Straw Hats, but we did get some stuff already with Kuma as well. And Vegapunk, obviously, is still surrounded by questions. His proximity to the Revolutionary Army, his proximity to the world government, his mystery ally, we didn't even touch on them. I guess it's Stussy. Is that I don't know. I don't think it's Stussy, but the propensity for me to be wrong is definitely there. One last thing before I wrap up here. Stussy's Devil Fruit. They didn't reveal it. Oda hasn't said anything about it, but she's clearly some sort of a vampire. I wonder if Bakken has that ability as well. Part of me is inclined to think no, but we haven't seen anything to the contrary. I don't know what this like Dracula or vampire devil fruit, if that's even what it is going to do. I think it is a devil fruit though, given just the nature of the ability so far. I don't think she was cloned to be some vampire or cloned from a vampire necessarily. But then again, we had King Seki, who had the teeth, so maybe he was a vampire, maybe that was foreshadowing. Either way, lots to dive into in 1073. Part of me almost wished, you know, you guys, Oda, you should have taken this week as break 2 and just give us 2 next week, because I'm left with questions on questions on questions. One more week, that's not too bad. We're going to see what these Seraphim get up to. I kind of anticipate with them specifically, you know, CP0 now has 4 Seraphim on their side. Well, what about S Flamingo, S Crocodile, S Bat? Are they going to make an appearance? We'll see. They could be under development and a little more volatile of test subjects so far of Seraphims. I just want to see them though. Like, I want to see the Seraphim young versions of Crocodile, Doflamingo, and Moria really bad. For a while, I thought it would be Luffy against the 3 of them together, since they were the 3 warlords he's fought. See where he can fare up with all 3 of them genetically modified 3-on-1. It might be more like the Seraphims get matched up to each other, which I'm not complaining about at all. I would love to see the warlords fight it out, and this is a very story-conducive way to do that. I love that. Curious, obviously, how the satellites are going to play into things. I didn't really get too much from them this time. You know, Shaka's still doing his thing. Edison and Lilith are going off to do contingency work kind of on the outside. There's room for a lot of stuff to happen here. There's lots of moving pieces to Egghead arc. And we didn't even get into the Navy. The Navy didn't do anything this chapter, but inevitably Kizaru is going to be right there around the corner next time. Plus we got Garp. I could go on. There's tons of stuff going on right now. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I will be back either. I don't want to make hard promises again, you know, and then fail to deliver, but I would like to get that Egghead side, the side stories of Egghead script out, revised and out, hopefully before the next chapter. If not, though, it'll probably be another Last of Us video on episode 2, or another One Piece chapter breakdown and analysis. But as usual, thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, weekend, whatever, whenever. Take care.